Hi everyone. So as you can see from the large group of plants in my frame right now, today we are going to talk about all the kinds of monsteras that I own and what I do to take care of them, and what is the condition that is required by them to thrive the most. So let me first show you all the bunch of monsteras that I have. Typically I have three kinds. One is Monstera Deliciosa, one is Monstera Borsigiana, and one is the third, which is also called this Monstera Adansonii, the leaves with holes in it. So I have two kinds of Monstera Adansonii. Actually there are a lot of different scientific names basis the size of the hole and the composition of how much leaf content there is, basis that there are different kinds of name, but broadly this is Monstera Adansonii. So my knowledge of scientific names is limited, please forgive me for that. I have a very basic knowledge of it, and you can check out my basic differentiation between all the kinds of monsteras somewhere on top. I don't own all of them, like for example commonly mistaken or called mini monstera, that is Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. I don't have that right now. That's okay, I couldn't find it anywhere. So this is let's first go through it one by one. So Monstera Adansonii, this is the large leaf variety. You see how large the leaf is, the holes is also large, and this is basically the plant. The other one has smaller leaves and more number of holes than this one. So this is Monstera Adansonii for you, and these are two kinds. Then there is Monstera Borsigiana. This is the Monstera Borsigiana. The internodal space between two leaves is very large compared to that of Monstera Deliciosa. This is Monstera Deliciosa for you. Very beautiful penetration. Common names for these guys are Swiss cheese, and for Monstera Adansonii is Philodendron broken heart, and Monstera Borsigiana is often sold in nurseries as Monstera Deliciosa, but they are not. The way to understand it is the internodal space, that is the distance between two leaves. So if the distance between two leaves is very tiny, like this much, that there's a high chance that is Monstera Deliciosa, as you can see in this plant. And the fenestration is very symmetrical and very beautiful. While Monstera Borsigiana, there are some fenestrations, but they are not as beautiful as Monstera Deliciosa. But I love them both equally, and that's pretty much it on the monsteras I have. Let's talk about care. Kolkata weather is mostly humid, the place where I live. Most of the days of the year there is about 70% humidity, and they love it. These guys love this humidity, especially Monstera Adansonii. You see this one? This guy is a survivor. You see this had just one leaf, and even that fell off because of the shock when I bought it from a local plant nursery. And then now it's thriving. It's growing from left, right, and center. These three large leaves you see, it's completely new and it's growing. I didn't think it would survive this, and it looked dead, and it came back from that. These plants are survivors of the plant. You see the tiny one on the side? This is actually propagated. You can see that there's a pin here and it's propagated. So I propagated these from this other Monstera Adansonii by simply using the pinning method. When I see a lot of roots coming out, what I do is I bring the plant down and I've pinned it at various places. You can see that there are a couple of pins. So it's very easy to propagate, and it grows very tremendously in this weather. See the number of growth points that it is growing from. It's such a small pot. They love to be root bound. Do not repot it if it's not completely root bound. Like you see a lot of roots when you pull it out, then only you repot it. So soil is normal soil mixture, well draining soil. So typically it's a mixture of cocoa peat, perlite, vermiculite, and a little bit of organic matter so that there is enough drainage and the soil does not retain much moisture yet. So, just to give you an idea, I water this Monstera Deliciosa sometimes every week, sometimes every 2 weeks. So you don't even need to water it every week. It will survive this weather. It does not like, in my experience, Monstera Deliciosa is much more susceptible to root rot than Monstera Borsigianas. Although they also get root rot, but they can survive that. Monstera Deliciosa are very sensitive to that, in my experience. So talking of watering, yes, for both Monstera Adansonii and Monstera Borsigiana and Monstera Deliciosa, I take extra precaution because it doesn't like root rot, so I water it every 2 weeks. And for the other guys, I water it every week. As for example, you can see that this pot is small, so it dries faster. So every week is definitely necessary. And for this guy, it has a little bit of larger pot, so maybe I'll water it every 2 weeks. So the rule of thumb is very simple. I dip my finger deep into the soil and check whether the soil is completely dry or not, and then only I water it. It doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks, like nobody can tell you exactly how many number of what should be your watering frequency. You have to check that for the plant yourself, and do not water it if it's completely wet. It's supposed to retain a little bit of moisture, but not should not be soggy. So be careful with that. If your soil is staying wet for a long period of time, it might lead to root rot. So the soil has to be well drained. If your nursery hasn't provided you proper soil with the plant, just change the soil. Once it has acclimated to your house, again, do not repot it as soon as you bring it home. Just leave it like that. Let it adjust to your home environment, not water it if the soil is already wet, and then replant it with a nutritious soil after some time. So let's talk about light requirements. Light requirements, they love bright indirect light. For example, these guys, you see Monstera Borsigiana is not very happy right now because I shifted it away from east facing window, and anywhere else it's just not happy. It loves light, like not very sharp direct afternoon light, but early morning sun. So this is the east facing window. I keep it right beside the window. It gets the filtered morning light and it loves it. It grows tremendously in that, and that's the kind of light it likes. For fertilizing requirement, I would say that I fertilize it every 1 or 2 months. Actually, for this guy, this was bought from the nursery, Borsigiana, a little while back. So I definitely fertilize it every month. But these other guys were recently bought out, so oftentimes nursery already has some nutrition in it. So I did not fertilize it for the first 2 months. Now I started fertilizing it just last month. So I'm going to do that every month, and that's pretty much it. I slowly introduce fertilizer in a new environment because I don't want them to go into shock again. So, like, slowly introduce liquid fertilizer, and then at some point later down the line, if I see the plant is growing well, I introduce slow release fertilizer as well into the soil. So, that is pretty much it. We talked about light, we talked about water, we talked about soil, and we talked about fertilizer. These plants, I love these plants. My favorite, I have been wanting Monstera Deliciosa for a long time. I couldn't find, I've killed a couple of Monstera Deliciosas when they were small. I bought it from a local nursery and I overwatered it. I put it with the Monstera Borsigiana and in a cocoa peat rich soil, which is why it kind of completely rotted and died. Plus, I introduced a little bit of transplant shock when I planted it with Borsigiana. So these plants are very hardy plants, I would say, but at the same time, you need to give it a little bit of light and just stay away from water. Just stay away from water for a week. If you are doubtful, stay away from water for 2 weeks. It won't matter, but it won't die. Then slowly you can figure out the watering. Watering schedule is the most important part to figure out the philodendrons and monsteras of the world, according to me. I mean, they have very little of everything else required because I live in a humidity rich environment. Even when there is no humidity, let's say during the winter, they seem to thrive even then. And just to be just to tell you that these guys are in direct AC draft right now. Even then, they are doing well. I mean, how is that possible, right? They are very, very hardy plants, according to me, at least in my case. I have observed them for the last 6 months. Some of these guys have been with me for more than a year, and they have done well in such a weird weather. It gets very hot and stuffy here sometimes. Then I switch on the AC, and it gets very cold very fast. So it can handle it. Like Calatheas, they are very moody. They are very, very moody, but Monsteras do very, very well in that drastic change once they get adjusted to your place. Hope you like this video. Maybe you understand Monsteras better. Do let me know if you have any other question for me. You can ask me any questions below about these guys, and I'll answer them. That's pretty much what I learned these days. If I learn something new, I will tell you. So you can see if, okay, another thing, the fenestrations, these holes and designs are called fenestrations, and for fenestrations to be beautiful and come in, you have to provide the bright and red light that I talked about. But if basically if you don't put in light, the fenestrations will not be there. Just a little bit of info if you don't know already. Monsteras are found in forests, and the reason they have these fenestrations is because they have large leaves, and when the rain falls in a rainforest, the rain falls with the force, right? So their leaves will tear up because they have large leaves. That's why nature created holes so that the water can pass through. And that's a beautiful information that I found about Monsteras, that they have these beautiful fenestrations which we chase after, but they have created it for their survival, and now we are enjoying it at our homes. Thanks for watching. Hope you like it, and do subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Like this video if it was at all useful to you in any way. I talk about plant care and whatever I learned, and especially cater to Indian weather where it's very, very hot and humid and cold all the time, or most of the time. So that's it.